Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something that affects absolutely every single one of us every single day, yet most of us never actually see it happening. We're going to explore the fascinating and, honestly, sometimes startling history of our vanishing privacy. You know, what's incredible to realize is that our personal privacy wasn't just lost overnight when smartphones showed up. It's actually been systematically eroded over the past 180 years. Through these quiet shifts in technology, law, and corporate policy, our data has been captured without us even really noticing.
To really wrap our heads around how this happened, we're going to use a classic metaphor. Picture a frog dropped into a pot of cool, comfortable water. Because the heat under the pot rises so slowly and so gently, the frog just swims around, completely unaware of what's happening. By the time the water is actually boiling, it's way too late to jump out. And guys, this is exactly how the infrastructure of modern surveillance was built around us. Degree by degree, policy by policy, convenience by convenience.
Which brings us to the ultimate question we need to ask ourselves today. Are we already boiling? Has the water of constant digital surveillance reached a rolling boil while we were just happily distracted by all the cool new conveniences of modern life? Well, to figure that out, we need to trace the temperature of the water from the very beginning.
Let's start with Phase 1, the comfortable cool. This takes us back to the era before the 1990s.
Long before anyone had a computer in their home, the machinery of surveillance was quietly being assembled on paper. In 1841, yes, 1841, a company called the Mercantile Agency began the very first systematic tracking of individual credit and character. This was essentially the birth of the modern data broker. Fast forward to 1921, and these credit associations had expanded to 230 cities. That meant millions of ordinary Americans were having their personal behavior archived in giant filing cabinets. Now, there was pushback, of course. In 1965, the Supreme Court case Griswold v. Connecticut established a constitutional right to privacy, which was a huge beacon of hope. And in 1974, the Privacy Act attempted to regulate how the federal government used our personal data. But as we'll see, these protections would prove to be mostly just on paper, because a massive technological shift was just around the corner.
Moving right along to Phase 2, the water begins to warm. Welcome to the 1990s.
In 1994, a company called Netscape invented the browser cookie. Sounds pretty harmless, like a sweet treat, right? But it's actually a tiny file that sits right on your computer and reports your online habits back to companies. For the literal first time in human history, websites could remember ordinary people, follow their clicks, and build a unique profile on them. While the frog was splashing around in delight over this exciting, super connected new digital world, someone just quietly turned on the burner.
And this brand new technology created a stark divide in how the world reacted. Between 1995 and 1997, we fully entered the Wild West of personal data. The European Union actually issued its first data protection directive, sensing the danger of this digital tracking right away. But across the Atlantic, American companies were operating with almost zero rules. A landmark study from 1997 found that out of the 100 most visited websites in the US, only 17 even had a privacy policy. And get this, not a single one met basic standard protections.
This created a really silent evolution. We started with the early personal computer, right? It was isolated, innocent, a tool entirely under your control. But almost overnight, we transitioned to the modern web browser, which is networked, heavily scrutinized, and constantly monitored by a magnifying glass of commercial tracking. The internet went from being like a public library you visited to a store that actively watched and recorded everything you looked at.
Let's check the temperature again. Phase 3, the heat rises. This is the era from 2001 to 2012.
During this specific era, government policy and consumer technology evolved in tandem. In 2001, the Patriot Act granted government agencies sweeping new powers to monitor communications, often without a traditional warrant. Coincidentally, that very same year, the first GPS-enabled mobile phones arrived on the market. By 2002, the Pentagon proposed a program called Total Information Awareness. The goal was to connect travel, credit, medical, and email data into one giant system. Now, public outcry officially killed that specific program, but many of its underlying methods survived. Then in 2008, new laws like 7702 allowed the NSA to collect foreign communications, but in the process of doing that, they swept up enormous amounts of ordinary Americans' data purely by accident, which really normalized the idea of mass surveillance.
So why did we all just accept this? Well, because consumers were getting an absolutely incredible benefit. Maps right in your pocket. You literally never had to be lost again. But the silent trade-off for that magic was carrying a device that constantly tracked your cell signal. We eagerly traded our locational privacy for everyday convenience, and the temperature of the water increased just a little bit more.
Which brings us to Phase 4,
The boiling point, 2013 to the present.
In 2013, the world was completely stunned by the Edward Snowden leaks. Classified documents revealed NSA programs with codenames like PRISM and Upstream. It turned out these massive data collection facilities weren't just looking at suspected criminals. They were actually collecting the daily internet activity and phone records of millions of ordinary people by tapping directly into the internet's backbone infrastructure. And all of this was happening without individual warrants. This is the moment the frog finally feels the heat, but the trap has already been set.
Following those 2013 Snowden revelations, there was definitely some pushback. In 2018, the Supreme Court ruled in Carpenter v. United States that police actually do need a warrant to access your long-term location history from your phone carrier. That was a win. But by 2021, investigative journalists uncovered the Pegasus Project. This revealed military-grade spyware that infected the phones of activists and journalists globally, with literally 0 clicks required from the user. And just recently, in 2024, new legislation known as RISA expanded surveillance powers even further, potentially forcing almost anyone with access to internet routers to assist in data collection. The net just keeps getting wider and wider.
And that leads us to our current state, the result, a fully surveilled reality.
To break down what this reality actually means for you right now, today, let's look at these 3 pillars. First, your location is sold. Your smartphone records your location constantly, and data brokers can legally sell that exact location to advertisers or even to law enforcement. Second, your social graph is mapped. This means creating a complex web of everyone you know and interact with, using just metadata, so knowing who you called, when you called, and for how long, without even knowing a single word you said. Analysts can predict your behavior, your health conditions, and even your political leanings. And third, privacy is nearly impossible. This surveillance isn't just a voluntary add-on anymore, it's completely baked into the apps and the devices we rely on for work, for family, for life. Opting out essentially means throwing your phone in the ocean and opting out of modern society entirely.
You know, the frog never jumped out because every single tiny degree of temperature increase felt way too small to matter at the time. A fun new app feature here, a slightly tweaked security policy there. But right now, the water is actively boiling. The infrastructure is fully in place. So the question I want to leave you with today is this. Do we finally notice the boiling water in time to actually do something about it? Or have we just permanently accepted this trade-off? Thank you so much for exploring this explainer with me today. Keep learning, keep asking questions, and I'll catch you next time.